Hi, I'm Craig, and I work with my wife in the business that we created called IPH Creative Studios. We produce creative content and photography, predominantly for real estate, and we also do a lot of commercial videography work and photography work.
What's your son's name?
Isaiah, yeah, Isaiah, or Izzy for short. Yeah, so we drop him to daycare usually 5 days a week, and so I pick him up and me and him go to the park for a play or down to the beach. Just the kids are an absolute lunatic like me. So I think the last time I walked down the beach with him, he just decided to stand there, look at the ocean, strip off and go, "Come on, Dad, let's go swimming." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, so I didn't have any swimmers, so I just stripped down to my boxers, and he's gone, "Your boxers too, Dad," because he was in the nud. I was like, "No, I can't do that, son. I'm going to get arrested." So.
Do you remember what it was like to be a kid? What was Craig Morris?
Ooh, not so much to be a kid, probably in my younger years. But yeah, just normal sort of teenage kid. In that I guess 12 to 15 bracket is sort of years that I can remember. Riding the bike around town and down at the cane fields and jump at Bly. Grew up at Bly, so back then there used to be the sugar mill in Nambour, and we used to jump on cane trains and ride them into town and ride our bikes around and dodge brown snakes and all this sort of thing. So yeah, just a normal sort of childhood growing up. And yeah, look, things for me, Dad was working a lot, and this is by no means, my mum and dad, they did the best they knew of what they had, and Dad worked really hard, Mum worked really hard. We never went without as a family. We'd probably be classed as what was a middle class family. Food on the table, clothes on our back, went to school, never had lack. They loved us, we knew that they loved us, but Dad was an orphan, so he was adopted when he was young, and Mum grew up, she was, pretty abused and beaten up as a kid as well, and she still has night terrors. So, we had a good family, and Mum and Dad, we know they loved us. I guess for me, probably around that 15-year-old mark, looking to grow up and start to become a young man, at 15, 16, I was looking for role models, and I started to hang around with the wrong crew in town, and saw them as the cool guys, and so drinking and smoking and all that sort of stuff from 15, 16 years old. Yeah, probably one of the pivotal things that led me down the wrong path earlier in life was there was an adult student, and he was everything I sort of wanted to be. It's like he was a role model for me, and I was working at a fast food takeaway store near his house, and I went over to his place one time at lunch, and he sat down. He said, "Do you smoke?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I smoke cigarettes." And he goes, "No, do you smoke bongs?" And I didn't even know what it was, and he put it in front of me and put it to my mouth and said, "There you go, yep," lit it up, sucked the smoke in, and that was my first experience at doing drugs, and he said to me, "Welcome to adulthood." And so 15-year-old kid hanging around with an adult student in a lounge room, given some drugs. "Hey man, welcome to adulthood." Oh, I'm a big boy now. I'm an adult. And so from there, it just sort of went downhill for me. I was just catapulted really into the drug scene and into the club scene at 17 years old, going to nightclubs and yeah, just doing more and more drugs. Yeah. Back then, I just wanted to belong and fit in and be part of something, and that connection then was through drug use. That was the connection, and that was just my life a lot when I was in those teenage years, right up until getting in with the wrong crowds, literally having a contract put on my head, driving across to Perth, but then getting into the same scene over there because the admission or awareness that I was a drug addict hadn't really kicked in. And that all came crashing down, and I ended up really doing harder drugs, and ended up paranoid, locking myself in my unit, And it got to the point where literally I was in my flat for about 3 or 4 days, and I was hearing voices in my head, and I ended up running into a news agency and trying to rob a news agency with a butcher's knife. And I remember yelling at this woman, give me the money, and a guy came running out the back of the store, and he was like, don't hurt her, and it was almost like I woke up in that instance, and it was like there was something in me that just said, actually I can't hurt her, I'm just desperate here, but I actually can't hurt someone for money. And so I ran out of there more scared than I'd ever been. And I rang my older sister and just said, look, I actually need some help. I can't do this anymore. And that was my first bottom out sort of realization that I needed help with addiction, I found myself ultimately, through a lot of stuff, fast forwarding, ended up back on the Sunshine Coast shortly after. And everywhere I was living with a friend and this lady, and she was an older lady. I said to her, look, everywhere I go, I keep running into people who are saying, hey man, we should hang out and get stoned, or we should hang out and have a drink. And it was almost like as soon as I left it, it was like it was knocking on my door again. I just wanted to meet some clean, sober people, but it seemed like everyone I ran into, that was their normal. Having drinks or getting high or partying was just their normal life for everyone around that 21, 22-year-old mark, And I said to my friend I was living with, I said, look, is there any clean, sober people? And she said, well, come to church, there's quite a few clean, sober people there. And I'm like, I've never been to church like that, and so I ended up going up, and I can't even remember what was preached in the night, but I do remember one thing is that at the end of that night, the pastor said, look, if you have this hole inside of you, or this emptiness inside of you, or this thing that's inside of you, you don't have peace, and you want to know that tonight, you can know that in Jesus. And I ended up almost running to the front of that church. My mind was going, what are you doing, man? But inside of me, it was a completely different experience. And I prayed a prayer, and I ended up, I know it sounds funny, but you see people in these TV shows falling over. Well, that happened to me. And all I can say is that this energy or power or something like electricity and pins and needles and fire engulfing my entire body where I couldn't move. And I remember lying there at the front of that church at the altar, and I could feel these invisible hands holding on to me and said, I love you, I'll never leave you. And that was a massive turning point in my life, from addiction and drugs, My life has become really simple with need and want and that sort of stuff. Like literally, people ask me, it must have been really hard losing everything, and it may sound strange, but in losing everything, I gained everything. In losing everything, in getting to a place in my life where I had to dive into a trash can to get something to eat because I was that hungry, just really transformed and had an incredible effect on me, where right now it's like, I see someone, oh dude, you need a pair of shoes? Here you go, have mine. It's nothing, the things and stuff just don't matter anymore. It just doesn't. It's all just things and stuff. The thing that matters is loving people and showing that love, giving when you can to help people. That's the core.